Welcome back to the Project Return online classroom. My name is Elizabeth and I'm your program manager. And today we're going to be making Dreamcatchers. So for this project you will need some kind of loop, whether that's paper plates or a loop like this or an embroidery loop made out of plastic or wood, doesn't matter. And then you're also going to need to have some thread. So I have some slightly waxed thread right here that I'm going to be using today. It has a little bit of a tooth to it, so it sticks to each other a little bit better. And then we also have our loop. As I mentioned, I'm using the metal one, and it has a little sharp point at the top there. You can kind of see it. Now it's on the bottom, just indicate it right there. So that's where I'm going to start my tie. That's where I'm going to start my dream catcher at. So go ahead and make a knot. So there we go, a knot. Now I tie a specific kind of knot because I typically like for this to slip off when I'm done. You don't have to tie it like this, but I just loop it under, over, and through the big loop and pull it tight. And so the whole point of this is to get our spooled thread on a spool, preferably, and you're going to, holding onto your thread, your excess thread, start spinning. Oops, it needs to be tightened. Start spinning in the opposite direction. Oops, fly away, flew away. So hold on to that strip there. Hold it tight and then rotate and roll the spool around the cord over like this, and then pull it tight and mush it close. Twisting it will add tension to it, keep it nice and tight. So do this throughout the whole piece. It will eventually cover the whole thing. It may take some time. You may lose some of the straps. You may need to tighten it again. Definitely as you get to the end of it, you want to tighten it. Very important to do that. And so it takes a little bit of time, but it's very, very soothing and relaxing once you get into the motion of it. It's just about getting into the process, getting into the making of the object, and feeling confident about each step that you're taking. So just pace yourself and go with the flow. So next I'm going to use a yarn needle. You don't need this technically, but I'm going to use one because it helps with my hands. So yarn needles. This will be really helpful when we get towards the end of our stitching, and it's easy to loop, as you can see, no finickiness. And so I went ahead and tied it on, trimmed off the edge. So let's see how we wrap this. First, I always hold it where I had it. I go over, see how it goes over and under. I go under with my needle through that big shape I created and up through that hoop. And there's a lot of cord to start with. And I kind of just tied about a sixth of the way. So again, looping it over the top, looping it under and through, pulling that nice and tight. So I pinch it again, pinch where I put my last one in, stitch it underneath, pull it nice and tight, and check. See if I'm about halfway through. It'll give you a good understanding of if you need to move your loops anywhere. It'll give you a good idea of your symmetry. So mine's pretty tight, as you can see. And I'm just going to keep going until I've got my full shape made. I'm going off the camera there for a minute. Got a little knot. There we go. So tied that loop off and 2 more to go. And again, you see me kind of pull up and down. That's to tighten it. Tightening it helps to keep the the cord taut and tight. And so always pulling using good amount of pressure, not straining so that we warp the loop that we're working on, whether it's a metal loop or a crochet or an embroidery loop, whichever. Make sure we're not exerting too much force that we're changing the shape. So now we have our first set. So let's grab hold. Our string is going to go in that direction, but it's only going to go halfway. So, taking a look at it now, we're going to split each of these sections in half. And so what that's going to look like is like this. First, holding nice and tight, you loop through this shape that we created on our first pass through and under until you pull that nice and tight. Nice, very nice. And that should split your first one in half. So you got your half C's, your half side here. And then that's basically it. And you continue from there. Holding tight, going into that shape, under, into the loop, through, and adjust it to about midway. Pull it nice and tight. And there we go. Oops. There we go. So, and we'll continue from there. So let's see a quick time lapse of what that looks like. Again, going through, under, pulling tight. Then going through, under, and pulling tight. And just continue that process until you come to the end. And as you get to the end, you'll notice your spaces are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. As that happens, you just want to weave your line in and out of the different holes that you see there to kind of lace them up. I don't have a video of me doing this for you, demonstrating this for you. Unfortunately, the time lapse stopped. But it's fairly simple if you see it. It's the same kind of weaving in and out, up and down that we're doing kind of right now into the holes, and eventually it will create a tight little shape there in the middle of your dream catcher. So unfortunately the time lapse was a fast one and not a video recording, so you can't see me finish it. But this is what your dream catcher will look like when you are complete with it. And then we have our decorating of our hanging draping strings. So for this, I'm going to use the same string that I used the wax cord for my weaving. And I'm going to use a hot glue gun, and just a little bit of hot glue will work. But you do need hot glue for this technique. So applying just the tiniest bit of glue right along the edge of that string, just a little bit, and pressing a feather to it. Not this feather's too thick. Do a different one. Pressing it lightly against that so it adheres, not too close that it burns your fingers. Give it a second to let it cool off. It doesn't have to stick super stick on the first try through. And then once that's nice and attached, I will set it aside for a moment, get myself a pretty bead. In this case, I was going pearls. Loop that through that bad boy. And then I like it when they dangle, but I also like it when they kind of fit into this bead. So I like that. Now, of course, you can trim the edges of your feathers if you're worried about it. I wasn't too worried about it for this video. I make a lot of dream catchers, so I often will disassemble things and mess around with old dream catchers and just take them apart and redo them, just for fun. So again, you can keep these on double loops. I like to loop them through and kind of adjust the height so they hang at different heights, but you can just as easily cut them in half or cut them at the lengths that you want and then adhere them that way. But I like them when they're kind of tied up so I can play with the feathers. I kind of play with the feathers. I move them around. And so here I am adding my bead, finishing up my strap, my hanging decoration. So thank you guys for coming in for this lesson. Attach your loops. Unfortunately, I can't really show it to you here, but you can attach the loops to the end. And as always, guys, we'll be making dream catchers when we come back to the center. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll reference this video and also have a lot more hands-on. So if you have time and the materials to make a dream catcher at home, do that. If not, be excited and ready to do it when we return. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.